$910,000. The clerk announced, and the room forgot how to breathe. 12 jurors stood in solemn silence as the number echoed through the federal courtroom like thunder rolling across dry land. At the defense table, former officer Ryan Walker stared ahead, jaw locked, eyes hollow, as if refusing to understand the words that had just changed everything. Across from him, Judge Angela Brooks did not smile. She did not celebrate. She simply folded her hands and looked forward with the calm of someone who had already won long before the verdict was read. Reporters scribbled furiously. Camera shutters clicked from the hallway. A city attorney loosened his collar. And somewhere in the back row, a woman whispered the question everyone wanted answered. How did it come to this? How did a respected officer lose his badge, his name, and nearly $1 million because he stopped the wrong woman? The answer began 48 hours earlier, under a bright Virginia sky where heat shimmered above the pavement and traffic crawled through downtown Richmond. It was just after 3 p.m., the kind of afternoon when engines idled, horns sounded impatiently, and people hurried home with one eye on the clock. Ryan Walker sat inside his patrol cruiser near the corner of Jefferson and Clay, sunglasses on, one arm resting near the open window. 16 years on the force had given him the confidence of a man who believed instinct was better than evidence. He trusted what he called his gut. Others called it something else. Then he saw the car. A brand-new black Mercedes S-Class glided through the intersection, polished so clean it reflected the buildings beside it. Ryan straightened in his seat. Behind the wheel was a black woman in a navy blazer, posture upright, eyes forward, driving with the quiet ease of someone who belonged anywhere she chose to be. Ryan narrowed his eyes. Expensive car. Out-of-state temporary tag. Solo driver. He flipped on his lights before the signal had fully turned green. The Mercedes pulled over smoothly to the curb. Pedestrians slowed. A man with a coffee paused near a bus stop. 2 college students turned and lifted their phones. Without thinking, Ryan stepped out, adjusting his duty belt, already convinced he was about to make an arrest worth bragging about later. He approached the driver's side and tapped sharply on the window. The woman lowered it halfway. Her expression was composed, unreadable. "License and registration," Ryan said. "Reason for the stop, officer?" she asked, voice steady and precise. He didn't like the tone. Too calm. Too direct. "This vehicle matches indicators connected to theft activity," he said. "Step out of the car." A flicker of surprise passed across nearby faces. The woman glanced once in the mirror, then back at him. "This is my vehicle," she replied. "Then stepping out shouldn't be a problem." She opened the door carefully and stood on the sidewalk in low heels. No sudden movement. No fear in her face. Ryan interpreted her calm as attitude. He began asking rapid questions, cutting her off before she could finish answers. "Where did you get the car? Who paid for it? Why the temporary tag? Why are you nervous?" "I'm not nervous," she said. "You should be." He gave a short laugh. "That's so." She reached slowly into her purse. Ryan stiffened. "Hands where I can see them. I'm retrieving my identification." I said don't move. People had fully stopped now. Traffic rolled past in a slow parade of curious glances. A delivery driver leaned from his truck window. Someone whispered, "This is being recorded." The woman lowered her hand and met Ryan's stare without blinking. Then she said the sentence that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "Officer Walker, you are making the most expensive mistake of your career." He smirked, stepped closer, and motioned toward the hood of the car. He thought he was in control. He had no idea the city was about to pay for his certainty. Ryan Walker had made hundreds of traffic stops, and most ended the same way. A warning, a citation, a story later told in the break room with laughter and coffee. He expected this one to end no differently. The woman stood beside the Mercedes with her hands visible, chin level, eyes calm. That composure irritated him more than anger ever could. People were watching now, and Ryan had built a career on never appearing uncertain in front of an audience. "Turn around," he said. "Am I being detained?" she asked. "You are being investigated." That is not the same thing. A few people nearby exchanged looks. One of the college students holding a phone took a step closer. Ryan felt the attention pressing in on him from every direction. He reached for control the way some men reach for volume. "Ma'am, if you do not cooperate, you will be placed in restraints and transported for further investigation." She nodded once, almost thoughtfully. Then make sure your report is accurate. He did not understand why that sentence unsettled him. He instructed her to place her purse on the hood. Inside were ordinary things: reading glasses, a leather notebook, lip balm, a silver pen, a courthouse parking pass clipped to a lanyard. Ryan glanced at it and tossed it aside without reading the name. He was already committed to the version of events forming in his mind. Confirmation mattered more to him than facts. "Where did you purchase this vehicle?" he asked again. "At a licensed dealership in Arlington." "Proof." "In the glove compartment with the registration you refused to review." Someone in the small crowd let out a low whistle. Ryan ignored it. He radioed dispatch for a VIN verification and requested backup, speaking louder than necessary. The woman stood motionless beside the car while summer heat rose from the pavement in wavering sheets. Not once did she plead. Not once did she argue. She simply observed him with the patience of someone timing a clock. Officer Melissa Grant arrived 3 minutes later, stepping from a second cruiser with a cautious expression. She took in the scene quickly. The luxury sedan, the crowd, Ryan's posture, the woman's remarkable calm. "What have we got?" Melissa asked quietly. "Possible stolen vehicle. Non-compliant driver," Ryan replied. Melissa looked at the woman. "Ma'am, do you have identification?" "Yes," she said. "I have tried to provide it twice." Ryan cut in before Melissa could respond. "We are past that." Melissa hesitated. "Dispatch says no stolen hit yet." Ryan tightened his jaw. "Yet." He motioned again. "Turn around." This time the woman slowly extended her wrists in front of her, then paused. "Officer Grant," she said, reading the nameplate with one glance. "I suggest you remember exactly what happens next." Melissa froze for half a second. Ryan did not. He guided the woman toward the rear of the patrol vehicle while cameras from phones tracked every movement. Traffic had nearly stopped. A city bus rolled by at walking speed, passengers staring through tinted glass. "Name?" Ryan asked as he opened the back door. "Angela Brooks." "Occupation?" He asked it with a smirk, already expecting something he could dismiss. "Federal judge." A few people laughed nervously, assuming sarcasm. Ryan gave a sharp grin. "Sure you are." She met his eyes. "You should have checked the parking pass." The words landed harder than he wanted to admit. He looked toward the hood where the lanyard still lay near the windshield, fluttering lightly in the hot breeze. Melissa picked it up, turned it over, and her face changed color. She stared at the printed seal, then at the woman in the back seat, then back at Ryan. "Ryan," she said quietly, voice suddenly thin, "you need to see this." For the first time that afternoon, Officer Ryan Walker felt something unfamiliar move through him. It was not doubt. Not yet. But it was close. Melissa Grant held the parking pass as if it had suddenly become heavier than plastic should be. The gold federal seal caught the sunlight, bright and unmistakable. Below it, printed in clear black letters, was a name that changed the temperature of the street. Honorable Angela Brooks. United States District Court. Access Level A. Ryan Walker snatched the pass from her hand and read it twice, then a third time, searching for some flaw that would restore the world to the shape he preferred. There was none. Around them, the crowd sensed the shift before hearing a single word. Phones rose higher. Whispers moved through the sidewalk like wind through dry leaves. Ryan looked toward the back seat of his cruiser where Angela Brooks sat with perfect posture, hands resting in her lap, gaze forward. She looked less like a detainee than a woman waiting for an appointment that had started. "Late. Could be fake," Ryan said, though his voice lacked conviction. Melissa did not answer immediately. She was staring at the registration packet now retrieved from the glove compartment. Everything matched. Vehicle identification number. Purchase date. Insurance binder. Ownership in the name of Angela M. Brooks. Richmond temporary registration legally issued 48 hours earlier. Dispatch confirmed no stolen report, Melissa said quietly. No flags. Clean record. Ryan felt every eye on him. The delivery driver was still parked at the curb. The bus had stopped at the next light, passengers still watching through the windows. A teenager whispered, "Man, he messed up." Ryan walked to the cruiser and opened the rear door with more force than necessary. "Step out," he said. Angela did not move right away. She looked at him for a measured second, then placed one polished shoe on the pavement and rose gracefully. "Am I free to go now, Officer Walker?" The question was simple. The tone was devastating. He cleared his throat. There was confusion regarding the vehicle. No, she said. There was an assumption regarding the driver. Even the city noise seemed to quiet itself for that sentence. Melissa glanced downward. Ryan forced a thin smile meant to signal control, but no one believed it, not even him. Ma'am, if there has been any inconvenience. Angela repeated. You publicly accused me of theft, ignored lawful documentation, and detained me in front of witnesses because you decided I did not belong in my own car. Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it. Somewhere behind the phones, someone murmured, "Tell him again." Angela turned to Melissa. "Officer Grant, I appreciate that you attempted to verify facts." Melissa nodded once, embarrassed but grateful. Then Angela faced Ryan again. "I have presided over cases involving civil rights, unlawful stops, and abuse of authority. I know policy. I know procedure. And I know exactly what happened here." Sweat gathered at Ryan's collar despite the afternoon breeze. "Judge Brooks, perhaps we can discuss this privately." She almost smiled. "You chose a public stage. Why ask for privacy now?" A few people laughed softly. Ryan's cheeks flushed. The laughter was not loud, but it carried the sharpness of broken pride. Angela reached into her purse and removed a slim business card. She handed it to Melissa, not Ryan. "Please give this to your chief. Tell her I expect body camera footage preserved immediately, all dispatch audio retained, and every report filed before sunset." Melissa accepted it with both hands. Ryan stared at the card as though it might explode. "This does not need to become something bigger," he said. Angela looked at the crowd, the phones, the stopped traffic, the witnesses he had gathered himself. Then she looked back at him. "Officer Walker," she said calmly, "it already is." She stepped into her Mercedes, closed the door softly, and drove away with the same quiet dignity she had arrived with. No screeching tires, no dramatic exit, just silence and consequence rolling down Jefferson Avenue. Ryan remained on the curb while the crowd slowly dispersed, disappointed only that karma had chosen patience instead of speed. Then his radio crackled to life. "Walker, report to headquarters immediately. Chief Benson wants you in her office." Now, headquarters looked different when a person entered under praise than when they entered under suspicion. Ryan Walker had walked through those glass doors for years with the easy stride of a man who believed the building belonged to him. That afternoon, every step felt borrowed. Officers at the front desk stopped speaking when he passed. A civilian clerk lowered her eyes to hide curiosity. Someone down the hallway whispered his name, followed by the kind of silence that says more than words ever can. He moved toward the elevator, jaw tight, replaying the traffic stop in fragments he kept trying to improve. If she had just identified herself sooner. If the crowd had not been filming. If Melissa had backed him more firmly. If. Men like Ryan often mistook excuses for strategy. On the 6th floor, the administrative corridor smelled of polished wood and stale coffee. Chief Laura Benson's door stood open. Her assistant did not offer a greeting, only pointed inside. Ryan stepped in and found the room already occupied. Internal Affairs Captain Samuel Ortiz sat at the conference table with a legal pad. The city attorney, Denise Harper, stood near the window scrolling through a phone with visible frustration. Chief Benson remained behind her desk, hands folded, expression carved from stone. "Close the door," she said. Ryan obeyed. "Chief, I can explain." "You will listen first," she replied. She pressed a button on the remote beside her keyboard. A television mounted on the wall came to life. There was Ryan on screen, body camera footage already uploaded and synchronized. There was the Mercedes. There was Angela Brooks standing calmly beside the car. There was Ryan dismissing documentation, speaking over answers, ignoring the courthouse pass lying in plain sight. There was the sentence now spreading across the city faster than any official memo. "You are making the most expensive mistake of your career." Chief Benson paused the video and turned toward him. "Do you know how many views this clip has in the last 90 minutes? Ryan said nothing. 300,000, Denise Harper answered. "And climbing." She held up her phone. "Local stations have it. National outlets requested comment. Civil rights groups are tagging the mayor. We have reporters downstairs." Ryan tried to recover ground. "The vehicle fit indicators. I was following instinct." Captain Ortiz finally spoke. "Policy does not authorize instinct over verified documentation." Ryan shifted his stance. She was uncooperative. Chief Benson's eyes hardened. She was calm. That is not the same thing. The room grew smaller around him. Denise placed another document on the desk. Judge Brooks has retained counsel. Preservation notice already delivered. They are requesting body camera footage, dispatch logs, training records, prior complaints, and stop data from your last 5 years. Ryan looked at Chief Benson. Prior complaints were cleared. Ortiz met his gaze. Cleared does not mean forgotten. A heavy silence followed. Benson stood and walked to the window overlooking the city she had spent decades trying to serve fairly. Do you understand what damages a department most? She asked without turning around. Not lawsuits. Not headlines. It is when decent people stop trusting us. She faced him again. And trust is expensive to rebuild. Ryan felt anger rise because shame often borrows anger's voice. So, I am the scapegoat now? Denise laughed once, without humor. No, Officer Walker. You are the evidence. Benson slid a folder across the desk. Inside was a notice of immediate administrative leave, badge surrender instructions, and mandatory interview scheduling. His name looked unfamiliar printed beside the word suspended. Turn in your badge and service weapon by 5 o'clock, she said. Your access card is deactivated in 1 hour. Ryan stared at the paper as if refusing to read it might erase it. For one stop, he asked. No, Benson said quietly. For everything that stop revealed. As he left the office, no one in the corridor met his eyes. Downstairs, televisions in the lobby all showed the same image. A black federal judge standing beside a luxury car, composed beneath flashing lights, while the caption below announced that the city of Richmond was facing questions it could no longer avoid. By sunrise the next morning, Richmond had chosen sides. Coffee shops played the traffic stop on muted televisions while customers filled in the sound with their own opinions. Radio hosts called it another example of profiling. Online commenters called it overdue accountability. Former officers called it a career-ending mistake. But in a quiet office 3 blocks from the courthouse, Judge Angela Brooks called it something simpler. Predictable. She sat across from attorney Marcus Reed, a civil rights litigator whose reputation had been built on patience, precision, and the dangerous habit of reading every line twice. Sunlight crossed the shelves behind him where case reporters stood in neat rows like witnesses waiting their turn. On the desk between them lay still photographs taken from the body camera footage. Angela beside her own car. Ryan Walker dismissing paperwork. The courthouse pass ignored on the hood. A crowd watching what should never have happened. Marcus adjusted his glasses and looked up. You know they will want to settle quickly. Angela folded her hands. Then they should have acted quickly yesterday. Marcus allowed himself the smallest smile. I was hoping you would say that. He slid a yellow legal pad toward her. Tell me what matters most. The money, policy changes, public apology, disciplinary action. Angela did not answer right away. Outside the window, church bells marked 9 o'clock. I have enough money, she said at last. I do not need their apology. And discipline handled in darkness teaches nothing. Marcus nodded. So what do you want? She looked at the still image of herself standing beside flashing lights. I want a jury to hear how ordinary this was. Marcus understood immediately. Not extraordinary. Not shocking. Ordinary. That single word carried more weight than outrage ever could. He began writing. By noon, a formal complaint was filed in federal court alleging unlawful detention, racial profiling, reputational harm, and emotional distress. It named Ryan Walker, the city, and the department. It also requested preservation of stop data involving race demographics from the past 7 years. That line sent tremors through City Hall. In the mayor's conference room, aides shuffled papers while Denise Harper briefed exhausted officials who had slept badly and spoken too much. This is no longer about one stop, she said. If patterns exist, discovery becomes a wildfire. The mayor rubbed his temples. Can we settle before filing becomes public? Denise gave him a long look. It became public yesterday. Meanwhile, Ryan Walker sat alone in his townhouse, wearing plain clothes that felt strangely anonymous. His badge had always announced him before he spoke. Without it, silence arrived faster. He watched the news replay the footage until he shut the television off, then turned it on again 10 minutes later. Some part of him still believed context would rescue him. It never did. His phone remained mostly quiet. The few messages he received were careful and short. Hang in there. Tough break. Call me later. No one wrote, you were right. That absence said everything. Near dusk, There was a knock at his door. Ryan opened it to find Melissa Grant standing on the porch. She held no coffee, no sympathy gift, no smile. "I came because Internal Affairs will interview me tomorrow," she said. Ryan stepped aside. "Then come in." She remained where she was. "I told them exactly what happened." His jaw tightened. "You could have backed me." "Backed what?" she asked softly. "You ignored documents in plain sight. You treated confidence like guilt. You heard federal judge and laughed." Ryan looked away. "You think I am racist now too?" Melissa answered with painful calm. "I think you never had to ask yourself certain questions. Yesterday, everyone else did." She handed him an envelope and left. Inside was a notice from the Fraternal Order representative recommending private counsel. He sat on the edge of his couch reading the same paragraph 3 times while evening shadows filled the room. Across town, Angela Brooks stood at her kitchen window overlooking the city lights. Her phone buzzed with messages of support from judges, attorneys, strangers, and people who had their own stories. She set the phone down untouched. Some victories begin long before court. This one, she knew, was only beginning now. 3 weeks later, the city learned that silence can be subpoenaed. What began as a single traffic stop had widened into conference rooms, archives, and sworn testimony. Richmond's legal department now measured time in deadlines and damage control. Every email mattered. Every memo mattered. Every forgotten complaint stored in an old database suddenly mattered more than anyone had expected. Attorney Marcus Reed moved through discovery like a surgeon with steady hands. He requested stop records, disciplinary files, training materials, complaint histories, dispatch audio, and body camera audits. The city objected, delayed, narrowed, and objected again. Marcus answered each motion with calm persistence. He knew institutions often rely on exhaustion more than innocence. Judge Angela Brooks never asked for updates twice. She read every filing, annotated margins in blue ink, and attended strategy meetings with the same composed focus she brought to the bench. She wanted facts, not theatrics. But facts, once organized, can be theatrical enough. The first crack appeared in a spreadsheet. Data analysts hired by Marcus reviewed 7 years of vehicle stops involving luxury cars registered in Richmond and surrounding counties. Drivers identified as black were searched or detained at rates far above similarly situated white drivers. When attorneys for the city saw the chart, no one spoke for several seconds. Numbers do not raise their voices, yet they can still accuse. Then came witness interviews. A retired school principal described being asked 3 times whether she had borrowed her own Lexus. A young surgeon recalled an officer demanding proof that a BMW belonged to him while he wore hospital scrubs after a 12-hour shift. A real estate broker said she stopped buying new cars because she was tired of being treated like a suspect every time she drove one. None of them knew Angela Brooks personally. That made their story stronger. Ryan Walker's deposition was scheduled for a rainy Thursday at 9 o'clock. He arrived in a Navy suit that fit well, but carried none of the authority his uniform once provided. Without the badge, he looked like many middle-aged men called to answer difficult questions. Marcus Reed greeted him politely and then began removing the floor beneath him one measured question at a time. "Officer Walker, what specific evidence did you have that the vehicle was stolen?" Ryan cited indicators, instincts, inconsistencies. Marcus asked him to define each term. Ryan tried. The words sounded thinner every minute. "Did dispatch report the vehicle stolen before detention?" "No." "Did you review registration documents when offered?" "Not immediately." "Did you read the courthouse credential on the hood?" Ryan shifted in his chair. "No." "Did you laugh when the driver identified herself as a federal judge?" The room grew still. "I do not recall." Marcus slid a transcript from the body camera onto the table. "Would reviewing your own recorded laughter refresh your memory?" Ryan's attorney objected. The objection changed nothing. Across town, local news stations reported each development with growing interest. Poll numbers showed public confidence in the department dropping sharply. Mayor Caldwell called emergency meetings and spoke often about reform, a word politicians prefer when accountability sounds too expensive. Chief Laura Benson announced mandatory bias retraining, revised stop procedures, and expanded review panels. Some praised her. Others asked why those steps arrived only after cameras did. Angela watched the evening coverage from her kitchen while rain traced lines down the window glass. Her phone buzzed again with messages from strangers. One came from a 17-year-old girl in Richmond. "I saw what happened to you. It happened to my mom too. Thank you for not letting it go." Angela read that message twice and set the phone down carefully. In court filings, harm is measured by categories: reputational damage, emotional distress, lost trust. But some injuries travel quietly through families for years before anyone names them. The next morning, Denise Harper requested settlement authority from the city council. Marcus Reed listened to the offer, thanked her for her time, and declined before the number was fully spoken. "We are prepared for trial," he said. And this time, the jury gets to watch the video. The courthouse was full before sunrise. Some people came for justice. Some came for spectacle. Many came because they had seen the video and wanted to witness what happened when power was finally required to explain itself. News vans lined the curb. Satellite dishes pointed at the sky like metal flowers. Inside, polished floors carried the sound of hurried shoes and whispered predictions. By 8:30, every public seat in courtroom 4B was taken. Ryan Walker entered through a side door with his attorney, shoulders stiff, eyes forward. He wore another expensive suit, but confidence cannot be tailored. It had to be carried, and that morning he had very little left. At the plaintiff table, Angela Brooks sat beside Marcus Reed in a charcoal jacket, a legal pad open before her, posture straight, expression unreadable. She looked less like someone seeking revenge than someone keeping an appointment with truth. The jury filed in one by one. Teachers, accountants, retirees, a nurse, a mechanic, a young father who still wore a wedding band polished bright. Ordinary citizens asked to weigh conduct that had become painfully familiar. Judge Eleanor Whitmore presided, silver-haired and precise, known for wasting neither words nor patience. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, "this case is not about headlines. It is about facts, law, and whether authority was exercised lawfully." Opening statements began. Marcus Reed rose first. He did not shout. He did not perform. He simply walked to the center of the room and let silence gather around him. "The defense wants this case to be about a misunderstanding," he said. "But misunderstandings end when evidence is presented. Here, the evidence was ignored." He turned slightly toward the jury. "You will see documents offered and dismissed. You will hear identity declared and mocked. You will watch a public servant treated as suspicious not because of what she did, but because of who she appeared to be." He paused. "And if this could happen to a federal judge in broad daylight, imagine who it happens to when no cameras are recording." Several jurors shifted in their seats. Across the aisle, defense counsel Martin Keller stood with polished confidence. "My client made a fast decision in a fluid environment," he said. "He was not motivated by bias. He was motivated by public safety. He called it an unfortunate interaction, a regrettable escalation, human error, terms lawyers often use when plain language would be more damaging." Then the video was played. No narration, no dramatic music, just street noise, flashing lights, and the unmistakable sound of certainty refusing to listen. The courtroom watched Ryan dismiss paperwork, watched him speak over Angela, watched him laugh when she identified herself, watched the moment Melissa Grant discovered the courthouse credential, and the atmosphere changed from command to consequence. Some evidence does not need commentary. When the screen went dark, the room remained quiet for 2 full seconds. Then Judge Whitmore called the first witness. Melissa Grant walked to the stand with visible nerves and sworn honesty. She testified that registration documents were available early, dispatch had found no stolen report, and she believed the situation could have been resolved within minutes had procedures been followed. Defense counsel tried to soften her words. "Officer Grant, are you accusing Mr. Walker of intentional misconduct?" Melissa answered carefully. "I am saying he ignored information that did not fit his assumption." Those 12 words landed harder than a speech. Next came Angela Brooks. She took the oath and sat beneath the witness light with steady grace. Marcus asked how she felt during the stop. She considered the question. "Not surprised," she said. "Embarrassed, certainly. Concerned, yes. But surprised? No." Marcus let the answer breathe. "Why not surprised?" Angela looked at the jury, not the lawyers. "Because many Americans know exactly what it means to be doubted before they are heard." Pens moved in the jury box. Ryan stared at the table. Outside, reporters refreshed feeds and producers rewrote scripts. Inside, Something more important was happening. For the first time since Jefferson Avenue, Ryan Walker was no longer controlling the scene. He was simply part of the evidence. By the fourth day of trial, the city no longer looked confident. Defense counsel still wore polished shoes and measured expressions, but the rhythm had changed. They were no longer presenting a story. They were containing damage. Each witness called by Marcus Reed added another brick to a wall the defense could not climb. A transportation analyst explained stop patterns in plain English, showing that black drivers of late-model luxury vehicles were detained at rates that could not be explained by geography, time of day, or reported theft trends. A former training supervisor testified that officers were repeatedly instructed to verify documentation before escalating encounters. A communications expert played dispatch audio in which no stolen report existed before Ryan Walker decided to act, as if one did. Facts arrived one after another, calm and relentless. Ryan took the stand that afternoon. He had requested it against cautious advice, believing jurors would understand him if they could only hear his side. Many people mistake being heard for being persuasive. He swore the oath, adjusted his tie, and looked toward the jury with practiced seriousness. Martin Keller guided him gently at first. Ryan described years of service, commendations, long nights, and split-second decisions made under pressure. He said he wanted to keep neighborhoods safe. He said he never intended disrespect. He said the stop was based on training and concern, not race. Some jurors listened politely. None appeared moved. Then Marcus Reed stood for cross-examination. He approached without papers, carrying only a pen. Officer Walker, how many stolen luxury sedans were reported within 2 miles of Jefferson and Clay that week? Ryan hesitated. I do not know. 0, Marcus said. How many registration documents did Judge Brooks attempt to provide before detention? Ryan shifted in his chair. I cannot say exactly. Twice, Marcus replied. How many times did dispatch confirm the vehicle is stolen before you escalated? None. Correct. Marcus took one step closer. How many times did you use the phrase indicators in your deposition? Ryan frowned. I do not recall. 17. Can you define it for the jury now? Ryan spoke about instinct, training cues, suspicious circumstances. Marcus let him finish. Is confidence an indicator? No. Is owning an expensive car an indicator? No. Is being calm an indicator? No. Is being a black woman driving a Mercedes an indicator? Defense counsel rose instantly. Objection. Judge Whitmore's gaze did not move. Overruled. He may answer. The room became so still that paper seemed loud. Ryan swallowed. No, Marcus nodded once. Then tell the jury what was. Ryan opened his mouth and found nothing waiting there. The silence that followed lasted only seconds, but it felt longer than some careers. Marcus returned to counsel table without another question. Closing arguments came the next morning. Defense counsel urged fairness, warned against judging an officer by one stressful moment, and asked jurors not to confuse error with prejudice. Then Marcus Reed rose for the final time. No one asked for perfection, he said. We asked for procedure. We asked for facts before force. We asked for dignity before assumption. The defense says this was one moment, but one moment reveals what years of habit can hide. He turned toward the jury box. When Judge Brooks said she was a federal judge, he laughed. Not because he knew she was lying, because he had already decided what truth looked like. Angela Brooks remained still beside him, hands folded, eyes forward. Judge Whitmore read instructions with deliberate care. Then the 12 jurors filed out to deliberate. Reporters sprinted to phones. Producers went live from the courthouse steps. Ryan sat rigid, staring at the closed door through which ordinary citizens had disappeared carrying extraordinary power. Angela exhaled once, slow and controlled. Marcus leaned toward her. Whatever happens, he whispered, the record now tells the truth. She gave the faintest nod. 43 minutes later, the bailiff announced the jury had reached a verdict. When the jury returned, the courtroom rose as one body and sat again in nervous silence. Even the reporters in the back row stopped typing. The 12 men and women who had entered as strangers now carried the weight of judgment for an entire city. Their faces revealed little. Some looked tired. Some looked resolved. None looked uncertain. Ryan Walker sat rigid beside his attorney, fingers clasped so tightly the knuckles had gone pale. Angela Brooks remained composed at the plaintiff table, hands folded, eyes forward, as if she had practiced patience for years and found no reason to stop now. Judge Eleanor Whitmore nodded to the clerk. "Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?" "We have, Your Honor." The paper was handed forward. The clerk adjusted her glasses and began to read. On the claim of unlawful detention, the jury found for the plaintiff. On the claim of racial discrimination, the jury found for the plaintiff. On the claim of emotional distress and reputational harm, the jury found for the plaintiff. Each phrase landed with the steady rhythm of a door closing. Ryan stared ahead without blinking. His attorney lowered his eyes to the table. Then came the final line, the one that would travel far beyond those walls. "We award compensatory damages in the amount of $910,000. No. Gasp filled the room. Surprise had already happened weeks earlier on Jefferson Avenue. What followed instead was something heavier and rarer. Recognition. Reporters moved at once, pens racing, phones lifted beneath desks, producers whispering into headsets. In the gallery, a retired school principal wiped her eyes. A young law student gripped the bench in front of her and smiled through tears she had not expected. Chief Laura Benson sat in the back row, shoulders lowered, absorbing the cost of every warning ignored. Ryan finally exhaled, but relief never came with it. Judge Whitmore thanked the jurors for their service and dismissed them with measured grace. Before leaving, the foreman, Daniel Hayes, paused near the rail and looked toward Angela. He said nothing. He only nodded once, the way people do when words would be smaller than meaning. Outside the courthouse, microphones bloomed like branches after rain. Cameras crowded the steps. The city seal above the entrance shone in late afternoon sunlight, as if polished for the occasion. Marcus Reed spoke first, brief and controlled. Today was not about wealth. It was about worth. Then he stepped aside. Angela Brooks approached the podium wearing the same calm she had carried from the first moment of humiliation to the final moment of vindication. "This verdict is not a celebration," she said. "It is a reminder. Dignity does not depend on occupation, title, or camera footage. Every person deserves to be treated fairly the first time, not after public embarrassment." Questions flew from every direction. Did she feel vindicated? Did she want Officer Walker jailed? Would she run for office? She answered only one more. "What do you hope changes now?" Angela looked over the crowd, beyond the cameras, toward streets full of strangers who would drive home carrying their own stories. "I hope fewer people have to prove they belong in places they already paid for." The line led every evening broadcast. Ryan left through a side exit with his attorney, avoiding the cameras that once would have followed him with respect. No crowd waited there. No statement was offered. Some endings arrived quietly because noise would only make them smaller. Weeks later, the city approved new stop verification policies, expanded bias review training, and independent audits. Whether reform came from wisdom or embarrassment mattered less than the fact that it came at all. Angela donated part of the award to scholarship funds for students entering law and public service. She returned to the bench on Monday morning and called her first case precisely on time. In Richmond, people still remembered the image of flashing lights beside a black Mercedes. But they remembered something else more. A man who judged by appearance was judged by evidence. And evidence, unlike prejudice, does not care who wears the badge.